G'day, Doggies fans, all things Bulldogs. Thought I would do a quarterly review, probably coming a week early, but as we had the bye after round 6, I thought I would get this done now. So we're going to talk quickly about the first 6 games and just some of the broader perspective that I have in relation to that as we move on to this next quadrant, heading into the halfway mark of the season. Obviously can't start better than we have with 5 wins and a bye in those first 6 rounds. And we look forward to the South Sydney Rabbitohs this Friday, Good Friday, hopefully in front of a crowd. There's projecting between 60 and 70,000. I think it'll be lucky to get to that. But if it does, well done to all involved. Hopefully everybody turns up and goes and sees the Bulldogs play the Rabbits. Obviously, I will talk a little bit about that game because there is some worries for the Rabbits as far as their halves go, having lost pretty much 3 of the halves in the pecking order. They're going to rely on that Lewis Dodd, I'm pretty sure, to make his debut, which we'll see and we'll talk about in the live tomorrow night. But for those watching this is a review on the first 6 rounds, and then we will also look ahead. I thought it how the top 30 is going to be shaped as well, because we've already had a couple of players that have moved on and one that was due to be playing next year, which frees up a spot for next year, which could be important for some of the players that we have at the club already. And I'll also look at some of the youngsters that I think will definitely join the top 30 next year, because they will have to move some through. And ultimately, that's where the Bulldogs want to be. So let's look at this straight away. Let's get into it. We'll have a look at how things have been travelling in the first few weeks, 6 weeks of the season as we go to that. And look, guys, really good start by the Bulldogs, winning all of our 5 matches, 28-20, 40-24 against the Titans, 16-8 over the Eels, 20-6 over the Sharks, which many thought was our best performance, and 20-0 versus the Knights. So the last 3 games, as far as attack goes, only scoring 16, 20 and 20, but that's being rather critical. We've also had to do that without Viliami Kikau and without Matt Burton. But the most important thing is that they've scored 56 points and only conceded 14 in those 3 weeks. After starting the season, scoring 68 and conceding 44. Our defence is better than anyone's in the competition. We got to see a lot of the tries that have been scored. The Bulldogs released all the tries from the start of the year, which was fantastic. And every game has been different. There's been twists and turns. There's been, especially the first 2 weeks, we felt like we were well on top in those matches, but still had, heart palpitations holding on for that. Round 1 against the Dragons really set up well the way we went about things. I've talked about it quite often, but it was a game where, looking through the stats, we had we maintained most of the possession. Our completions were better. We put a lot of pressure on Lachlan Ilias and Kyle Flanagan. Ilias made a heap of mistakes, especially in his sort of first game back. We, 6 line breaks all. They really threw some ball at us, and they exposed our right edge pretty badly at times. And that's been probably, of the whole season, that's been the area we have struggled the most. But in the way that we controlled this game, the fact that the ground we were able to make and concede, and also restrict, I should say, the opposition from making at certain times, really set this win up. Matty Burton 4 from 5. Montoya and Wilson scoring tries on the left and right edges, just through, tries that we've scored numerous times, the way they were set up. Tupanua twice through the centre off, balls from Sexton and Kurt Mann, which are really good. And a Connor Tracy try also down that left edge when Viliami Kikau took on the line. It was a really good performance. It shouldn't have been a 20 points conceded. Critter, through his diet, apparently conceded a lot of, got cramps. I keep saying conceded. I don't know why, but got some cramps, and that caused some issues. Dominant on the ground. Both sides pretty much playing quick ball through the middle at different times. Our kick defusal, we put up 8 bombs for those guys, and that was all from Matty Burton. A lot of those kicks were from about the halfway line, just putting him into the corner, and Matthew Feeney's really struggled. Toby Sexton didn't kick the ball at all in that match. Missed our normal high amount of tackles and ineffective tackles, but for a round one point of view, it was a really good performance, and the team did well. If we go and look at round 2 against the Titans, obviously we scored tries in the 1st minute, 10th minute, 14th minute, and 19th minute. And then again in the 40th minute, while the Titans scored in the 29th and 37th. So they got that sniff when Matty Burton got injured, which was after we were already led 4-0. Matty kicked 3 conversions. Critter then kicked the next 3 conversions. Campbell was 4 from 4. It was 22-12 at half time, and the Titans really felt like they had a sniff. They got attacked our left edge at that point. So, sorry, it was our right edge defence again. Critter moved over to the left-hand side to replace Matty Burton when he did his MCL. And many people were critical of that, but they said they had prepared for Crichton to step into Burton's role at some point. And I've put that down to a future potential of Critter playing more in the spine, considering they're probably going to upgrade his contract at some point before he is available, is what I think will happen. And to do that, they need to sort of, you can't be playing centres million plus contracts. It just doesn't work when you're managing a cap. And obviously the intention of him coming to the club was, many were saying he was going to play fullback. Many thought that, but as someone who's really helped in our defensive attitude, he's been very strong on the right-hand edge. So when they took him away from that edge, that caused us a lot of problems. The guys just didn't combine well enough, and there wasn't enough inside work from all involved inside out, which is how we defend, which is very similar to what the system at Penrith and what the Warriors are trying to do. But if it's not done properly and people don't know what they're doing, it gets exposed rather well. And second half, coach puts Crichton back on that right edge. Obviously, they had a plan for it, didn't work. He noticed that could be a drama. Putting him back on that right edge defence, I think, deflated the Titans a little bit. When they saw that they could exploit that edge with Sexton and Preston and that sort of thing, they've got a lot of attacking players in their team, and they sort of, and a lot of speed. And they thought, yeah, we can exploit that. And they got 2 tries. When Crichton went back out onto that edge, that really, I think, deflated them a little bit, and we were able to go on with it, where we got a try then in the 40th minute, 46th minute, and then a late one to Connor Tracy after, the Titans made another little mini comeback throughout the match. So nothing been easy for the Dogs, even though we looked after 20 minutes like we're going to blow the Titans off the park. I think obviously the injuries to Burton, Sexton took on all the kicks, and he actually kicked early in that match before Burton even got injured. So they were going to use more variation in that game, and probably kick to both wingers, kick to the fullback, and try and isolate all of them at different points. And it just comes down to who are they targeting, because that's what's happened in the different games. Going into round 3 against the Eels, another different match. We score in the 4th minute. Penasini scores in the 18th. We then score in the 25th and the 33rd. And probably a lot of our fans are thinking we're going to run away with this now. Addo-Carr gets one quickly after half time, and they pretty much dominate possession from that point on. We ended up winning the possession slightly by 51 to 49%, and our completions were really high. And the completions were pretty much the key to this match, because the ball was kept in play quite a lot of time. We had about 8 more runs than the Eels. They were making more meters. They were restricting our meters out of our own end. Toby was having to kick from deep in his own end. Their average set distance was higher, and they slowed us down a lot in the play the ball. The ruck speed for both teams, very, very slow. They offloaded more than us. They played more football than us. And, we just kept turning them away in that second half. And whilst a lot of people watched this match, where both sides had 35 missed tackles each, a lot of ineffective tackles, but that's the way we do. We put on that high pressure, that fast line speed. Sometimes players will fall off, or they'll only get a hand on them or something like that, and then it's finished off by somebody else. But it was the areas that we forced the Eels into, which caused them a lot of issues. We gave away a lot of penalties. It was a real slog, this game, and a lot of Bulldogs fans, sort of after the game, there was sort of split. Some were like really proud of how, without Burt and without Kickow, Bailey Hayward in his first starting match in the halves, and Toby Sexton kicked the entire game. I think Bailey had one kick, and Marnie might have had one kick. Sexton kicked for over a kilometre in that match. So the Eels did a really good job keeping us under pressure. We didn't really force the issue, though, which is our completions were high, and we were just prepared to get to work, tackle all day, and that's exactly what happened. We nearly score at the end. It was probably Sexton's only major issue that I've had this year. Was after we made that break, and Tupanua went a long way after Hayward made the break. Sexton's little grubber in behind was just ineffective, and it was the wrong play. We had massive overlaps. If we just kept going, we would have scored and put more points on the board. But it's hard to be critical of Sexton because he's been phenomenal, especially defensively, and that's been the tale of the tape. There's been so many great efforts by the Bulldogs players across the opening rounds of the NRL that it's really hard to be critical of anyone, really, and not that you'd want to anyway, but they've just been solid across the board. And defensively, I've been so impressed. I was impressed by the start with Burton and Kickout. Burton looks to have a bit more of a defensive presence about him as well. And that's important on your edge when you've got someone who's quite fast, can move laterally, step off both legs. He's like, he's big and he's tall, but he's very, very agile and mobile and very fit, and fitter than he's probably been. To do great work on the edge defensively, and then to show, how dangerous he was early in that match against the Titans and against the Dragons. He played well in both matches. They're building confidence in their attack from the work that they're doing in their defence, and I strongly believe that. And a player like Sexton, his defensive work has been outstanding to start this year. So we're going to talk about Sexton a lot because he's still not signed. So I'll talk about this when we start looking to the future a little bit. Okay. Then our best performance of the year, most would say, was against the Sharks at Shark Park. We scored in the 10th minute, the 37th minute, the 45th minute, and the 62nd minute. KL Ero scored in the 31st. Now, look, we've had a bit of luck. I'm not going to say we shouldn't have won, or but KL Ero got injured, and then Talakai got injured as well. So they were down to 15 pretty much from the halfway point of that match. And that sort of snuffed out any chance of them really making dents in us. And they never looked like beating us. I felt it was a good struggle early, but I felt we were better than them, and we were there to play. But you've got to take things in context. If the Sharks don't have that injury happen, they're a chance of staying in that match, and it might be a lot closer. And but getting these wins are important for our confidence. Looking briefly at the stats, we maintained possession. We made it very hard for them. Both teams completed high. 85% really, really good. Um, you know, we don't often make more post contact meters than the Shark, but per run it's a little bit less. 6 line breaks to 3. You know, they slowed down our play the ball as well. And it's funny how teams have been allowed to slow us down. And we really struggled to slow theirs down by the look of it there. Um, and the kicking game was much more varied. And this is when he moved Jacob Preston onto the left edge, who had a phenomenal game. Scoring that try, setting up Bronson Cherry's try as well. It really set up the game for us. Having that, we talked about it against Parramatta. Curran and Hayward didn't really ask enough questions other than the inside ball. It was, they both defended resolutely and played well. There was no doubt about that, but they just weren't as an effective attacking option, and that made us more really one dimensional to start the season. Getting into this game, we're far from one dimensional. The Sharks weren't prepared for what happened, and we were able to put on some points. We were able to put holes in their defensive line on both sides of the field and also through the center as well. It was a very varied performance. It was definitely orchestrated by the coach, and the coach has to be given an A. If you're grading the coach's performance in this first 6 rounds, it's an A performance. I felt the interchanges have been strong. I felt that the reaction of the coach, if there's been issues to make other changes, has been good. I felt the rotation of players has been good, and I felt that the strategy for each game has been completely different. And that has been means that you've got a flexible approach, means that you've got plenty of tricks in there, and also believe they haven't, if they've sort of found themselves in a fist fight, they've sat there and kept throwing punches until they've overcome the opposition. Knowing though they've got a knife and a gun and a bloody a machete and a nuclear bomb out the back if they need to use it, but they haven't needed to use it too often. I felt the Sharks, we saw a little bit of that, the Preston move to the left edge, and then some of the moves they played in that, I believe they were set moves. A player looks like he's running as a decoy and catches the ball. He does it twice. Like it couldn't have been just an accident where he's just fumbled it through. Um, and the defensive work as well, the way that they're getting numbers into the tackle, the way that they're able to move players sort of laterally as well as backwards, it makes it really difficult. And they're sort of putting them where they want them to be on the field to set us up for our sets. It's a lot of teams are finding it hard to sort of be in the positions of the field they want to be against the Bulldogs. So, yeah, Ciraldo's done a phenomenal job in doing that. Looking at the game against the Knights, yet again, some more luck for us. And look, you make your own luck, but it was 2-0 at halftime in front of a good crowd. That they've officially got it 24,000. People there believe there was way more than that. Curran scores in the 41st minute. We bombed the hell out of Marju all day. Carraz got plenty of fitness out of that game because the amount of sprints he had to do to compete for balls was just huge. And we finally got a tap back for Curran, who scored a really good try in the end. Really great run by Jacob Preston in the 45th minute after we got a bit of a roll on. Crossland was sent off after the trip. That first half, we were going very sideways. It was one of them days at a core where you couldn't go around teams. both our centres got bundled in a touch, or, not even getting the ball to the wingers. It was really hard. Sort of not enough speed in the leg work going through the middle. And then the fact that the Knights were down to 15 players basically from the second minute as well made it very difficult from them. And we were able to pretty much go through that match, just doing essentially what we wanted to do. And whilst it was tight at 2-0 and that could have given confidence to the opposition, the coaches said, all right, you've kept the ball in play for long periods. You've made them tackle their ass off. Conceding a try might have been early, might have been better for the Knights in reflection, because the amount of, and people won't agree with that statement, but sometimes when you get into a game like that, I know that there was some stoppages forced upon us. But we had 57% possession in that match, completed quite high at 78%, and made 600 more meters than them, heaps more post contact, only 2 line breaks. Running 40 meters a set, they lied all over us in the ruck, which was ridiculous. And I felt that the ref felt sorry for them. And we just put 9 bombs to their 0. So we had you're able to do bombs when you've got good field position. And we had all the field position in this match. Second half, we start running it through the middle. Jacob Preston, a great run. They could hardly get him down. Ponga had to get there to help, and then a quick play of the ball. Marnie straight onto a steam, rampaging Jack Todd, who scores his first try in the NRL. Kurt Mann, a really good try late in the game, and should have had 2 tries. One was disallowed, and initially I thought it went forward off the knock, but 20-0. They never looked like scoring, the Knights, and they've struggled to score the following week against the West Tigers. So that game took a lot out of them, though. Sunday night game, Sunday afternoon game, 15 players. We made them tackle. Like, how many tackles did they make? 409. That's a lot of tackles. So, obviously most people are very, very happy with how the Dogs have gone, and we look forward to this next bunch of games. So we've got the bye. We now have the Rabbitohs, and the team list will come up for them. They're going to have to probably play Lewis Dodd in the halves with Latrell Mitchell, and that could be dangerous. It could be dangerous. A player with something to prove. They've been pretty tough and resilient, the Rabbitohs, I must say. Like, I think they've been outplayed in 4 of their matches that they won. I can't believe they beat the Dolphins. I can't believe they beat the Dragons. I can't believe they beat the Roosters, and they beat them. Right? They've, the Cowboys got a bit of luck with that call on Whiten, but what's Whiten supposed to do there? 100% agree, but they've been calling them hip drops all the time. So, whether it's a right or wrong call, it's the rule. He didn't get suspended for it, which is good. He will play, and he's a tough player. And they may have Cody Walker back, but I very much doubt it. And I'm expecting the Bulldogs are going to, since the NRL era started, 24 wins to 22. We beat them on Saturday, the 8th of July, 2023, 36 to 32. We only played them once last year in a game we really should have won. So they've got a negative for and against the Sharks. They lost to the Rabbits. They lost to the Sharks 27 to 12. They beat the Panthers. They beat the Roosters. I think the Panthers game, they were the better side, but they held on for a long while. Like, the Panthers looked like they were going to score 100 tries in that second half. So they've been gritty. They've been resilient. They've nearly scored as many points as the Bulldogs, but they have played 6 matches to our 5. and they've conceded a whole heap more than what we have. Dogs been restricted their play with the ball in later games to 3.52. Souths are even slower. And wins overall, we're trying to get ours back up to 50% as quickly as we can. Now, it's going to be, I think, a tough match for the Bulldogs, and hopefully not a tough watch. I want to see us annihilate this team. We need to go out there and destroy that Rabbitoh side and do it through the hard work, do it through toughness, put a lot of pressure on them. Obviously, Latrell Mitchell, Jai Gray, these sort of players, Jack White and AJ Johnson, Tallis Duncan's a good player. Kaloa Matangi's a good player. Tatita Tavola is a very good player. And Havili off the bench does a lot of good stuff. Jai Arrow, who's always looks to be injured nearly every game, is a very good player. They've got good players. And Lachlan Hubner is, I think, someone that I would, if he came to the Bulldogs, I'd have no issue with it. I like the way he defends that guy. He's got the defence stuff going. So, look, guys, we'll do more of a preview when the teams are announced. I think it'll be business as usual. If Kickout plays, he goes to the left edge, Preston back out to the right. Curran goes into front row. No, Curran will drop to the bench, actually, because Harry Hayes is out injured. And Jack Todd will drop out of the squad if Filling Army plays. If Filling Army and Burton both play, right? If Burton plays, Filling Army plays. Jack Todd, I think, will be the one who'll drop out of the squad, unless they keep him in the squad and drop Daniel Saluka Fafita, which I don't see that happening. I think Saluka Fafita will start. Had Harry Hayes had played this week, had he not injured his ankle at training, I think Saluka Fafita would have been the one to make way. And that'll lead us into players off contract for the Bulldogs. So let's have a look at that now. Because we've done a review, let's look forward a little bit and see. We've had the announcement that Tom Amone has left the club. He was obviously contracted for next year, so that's opened up a spot for 2026. So we'll go through who we've got for 2026 and how many spots that leaves open, who's off contract, and what I think is going to happen. And without any disrespect to any player, I obviously have no idea what's going to happen. I'm just going to give you my thoughts on it. So let's have a look. So the current squad for 2025, we've now got, I think, 28 players. So there's 2 spots open. So you've got Burton, Crichton, Curran, Hayes, Haywood. Hotboy's not in until next year. Samuel Hughes, Drew Hutchison, Kickow, King Carraz, Marnie, Ma'uu, Kurt Mann, Marcelo Montoya, Curtis Moran, Preston Stammen, who's just been extended for 2 years, Toby Sexton, who's still not signed, Logan Spinks, who's on the development list and has an NRL contract in 2027. So he'll probably stay on development again next year. Daniel Saluka for Feeder, Blake Taff, Leo Thompson joins us next year, Jack Todd for next year as well as this year, Connor Tracy's until next year, Anari Tuala, who's getting closer to a return, Satili Tupanua, who's with us for a long time, Jake Turpin, Jack Underhill, contracted for 2026, but I thought that was development for 2026 and joining the NRL in 2027. So we'll have to check on that. We will have to check on that. I don't think that's an official tick to be in the NRL squad for 2026, but I would not be surprised if it is. And I think it might be something that they're going to do if they haven't done it. or they probably should do. Blake Wilson, Mitchell Woods, and Bronson Cherry. So for this year, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. So 2 spots are open in our top 30 for this year. So by June 30, and I think they might have a little bit of time after the deadline to get a player into the top 30. And a player that could go to could be someone from our development list. It could be a case where a player like does Leo Thompson come to the Bulldogs early because Dylan Brown goes to the Knights early. I don't think it'll happen, but it's something that may happen. And what effect does that have on the Bulldogs? Do they bring Jack Underhill into the top 30 already? Let's look at the development players. We've got Sasaya Alatini, Lipoi Hopoi, Geordie Mazzoni's got a club option. Joseph O'Neill, Logan Sminks, club option for next year to be on the development list for Geordie Mazzoni. Joey O'Neill, Logan Spinks, Jonathan Sewer, and Patrick Young. And I'll be interested, and there's nothing on here about Rini Kama. And he's only very young, but I think you'd have to think he's going to be in getting a Bulldogs NRL contract top 30 next year or the year after. You'd have to think that. Seen some really good stuff by different players in different grades. Patrick Young, Logan Spinks has been playing a bit of Ron Massey, been playing Jersey Flag as well. Mazzoni's been sort of going back between Flag and New South Wales Cup, so they're all getting a crack. And Alatini, I think, has been playing in SG Ball. So there's some really young guys there. Doesn't really have the train and trial players, but you got players like Luke Smith and the like in that as well. So, guys, I think there's the official player movements. Leo Thompson to us until 2029 on 825 grand a year, which is, I think, it's the right amount. You know, no one's getting paid more than the captain in Stephen Crichton. No one's and that's what you want. Tom Amone got his release today. Ryan Sutton got his release, and that's it's good for them and good for the Bulldogs. Re-signed Curran till 26, Hayward till 26, Kurt Mandel 26, Salmon till 27, Jack Todd till 26, and Bronson Cherry extended until 2027. And those off contract are Drew Hutchison, Curtis Moran, Toby Sexton, Daniel Saluka Fafita, Blake Taff, Jake Turpin, and Blake Wilson. So who stays and who goes, guys? I'll tell you now. I think Drew Hutchison will either find another club or potentially, we might see him move into some sort of role, whether as a coach or go over to England. I have no idea, but I don't think Drew will get an extension. And not because he's not a good player or anything like that. I just think his role there has been a real specific one. Was to fill a hole last year, to be there as a backup, could play some sort of role with the NRL side as we get to the future. And just watching how he's been utilised in New South Wales Cup, they let the young kids come into the halves and he's pushed out to centre on left and right edge. But when sort of the whips need to get cracking and whatever else, he moves into the halves, which he did in that end of the last game where we got the win against Newcastle, I'm pretty sure. So very, very important sort of player and helping lead those young guys around. Curtis Moran, now he's been named twice. He's been named for 3 games, but only actually played in 1. And his 12 minutes I felt was quite good, his contribution. So, looking at Curtis Moran, 97 kilos. He's 5'10". He's only 25, and he's off contract for this year. After this year, there was a couple of articles about him earlier in the year. He got some TV appearances. To me, he played in the Maori team as well and played quite well, I believe. He played more of that small lock role. He was doing a lot of passing and engaging the line and that sort of stuff and showing his versatility that way. He's a Bulldog through and through. There is an opportunity for him to get a contract, and I wouldn't write him off yet, but I'd definitely have him competing for maybe spot 29, something like that. I suspect they won't go into the season with a full roster of 30 players in 2026. I think there will be, and I don't think they will recruit too many more players to the club. Although we will talk about Lachlan Galvin and the likelihood of that as well, which I didn't want to make it a headline thing, and I'm sure it'll get talked about a lot. But Gus has said a lot of stuff in favour of Galvin, including that he should turn down $1 million a year, $5 million 5-year offer because he thinks he's one of the greatest talents and all this sort of stuff. I think he's a good talent too, but I have no room for. We got stung by a mercenary years ago, and and good luck to him. All the best. I don't want to see it happening again, where your club is in the talk for all the wrong reasons. Sure, link us to every player, that's fine. But when you got a player there that's being linked everywhere else, it brings your club down. It certainly does. And I actually like the fact that the Tigers have made the statement, he's not going to be with us after 2026. He said he wants to go on the open market. We've made our offer. That's it. See ya. Good on him. Good on him. Will they rue it? I think Luai's got a few good years in him, and he's on pretty big money, and they're going all right, and especially when he plays. So maybe Gus was right about Luai. Do you then trust he's right about this Galvin? It's one of those things. I'll tell you something now. Not everyone's right all the time, and he might be right about Galvin as much as he's been right about Luai, but doesn't mean it will turn out that way. And that brings us to Toby Sexton. Still not signed, Toby. 6 foot, 86 kilos, Queenslander. And young Toby has been going, brilliantly this year. Okay. So in 2025, he's run the ball 47 times. He ran the ball 19 times against the Knights, 125 metres. He's running the ball more and more. Round 1, 6, round 2, 6, round 3, 8, round 4, 8, round 5, 19. Hasn't made a line break. He's provided 2 line break assists. He's provided 2 try assists. 1 offload, 113 tackles, 11 missed, 2 tackle breaks, 2.5 kilometres in kicking metres. He's nearly got a 40-20 a couple of times. Given away 1 penalty, and he's made 5 errors. 3 of those were against the Sharks. He's coughed the ball up a couple of times while, running the footy. He's been hit hard. But I like his tackling efficiency. That's been what's impressed me a lot. And the fact he's been taken on the line has been important as well. I think it's set up other parts of our game, which is exactly what you want. And I think the more he does it, the more he keeps playing like that half where he keeps testing them, he's asking the right questions. And if you keep asking the right questions, you soon get the right answers. And that's exactly what's going to happen with Toby Sexton. Is he going to be a Bulldog? I could not tell you. And And this to me is a really important issue at our club, and something that we'll see the media really dip into. I think they're especially if we maintain our performances, winning the majority of our games, and we're up there in the top, leading the competition, or top two, top three as we head into that season, because they will suggest that we've been a much better side since Sexton's come to the club. The winning percentage of Sexton's been quite good. And he has been obviously an important part of our victories and our good performances. And whilst there's a lot of players you can put in that boat as well, Toby, I think, is well and truly liked by the fan base. And when you've got a player who's liked and they leave, you really have to have, it can make things difficult if there's a dip in our performance. So all these things obviously are out of control, and you can't predict. And, there's injuries, there's all sorts of things. But for many people who keep it really simple, and I'm not one of these people, it's wins or losses. Who's there when we win? Who's there when we lose? And that's how they see things. These are the stats, these are the wins, these are the losses. And that's easy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it can cause problems for a club like us that can be heading everything in the right direction, but can be destabilised so quickly if a call is made to let a player like Toby Sexton go while we've been improving, while we're leading the competition, while we're doing really well. When the market for halfbacks is limited as far as experienced halfbacks go, you're looking at a player in Toby Sexton who has, he's only played, he's played what, 52 matches, right? He's played 52 matches. And for the Bulldogs, he's played 28 matches and we've won 18 of them, 64%. I think he's well liked by the Dogs. And you got a player who's only 24 years old, just starting to come into his own. And how do I put it? When Dylan Brown's getting $1.3 million, right? Lockie Galvin, who's not even 20 yet, or just turned 20, has just turned down $1 million a year for 5 years. Toby Sexton, what's that make him worth? And what length of security should he be getting himself in this important period from a 24-year-old into the 27, 28-year-old, where they just start to peak, where they just start to get to their best? And some go beyond that from that point on, but that's when they know how to manage a game of rugby league. They know what winning and losing is and how it's done. If his management are expecting, between, I've probably got to give a pretty big sort of variation in this, between $500,000 and 800 grand. If they're expecting that and they want to get it closer to the 7 or 8, and they want it for 3 years, not for a 1-year extension or a 2-year deal. Look, I have no idea. I think if he's offered 2 years by the Bulldogs at about between 6 and 800 somewhere, I think he might stay a Dog. But I'm pretty sure some club if we keep winning and keep doing well, some club is going to find that money and be able to take a punt on Toby Sexton for 3 years, including the Gold Coast, a team where he came from. But, he's got a girlfriend now. His family's up in Queensland. Apparently, his manager's shopped him off to 3 different clubs, like Manly, North Queensland, somebody else. Yeah, Toby, where does he fit in? Does he get a? I want to throw him into the team. I really do. So if we go back to the 2026, there's about 7 positions open. So I'm going to rule out Drew Hutchison. So for me, and I'm probably going to say Curtis Moran may not be playing with the Bulldogs next year, as much as that kills me. I think Toby plays. I think it's going to work itself out. Or I'm hoping that's the case. I think with Tom Amone leaving the club, this enables the club to bring Daniel Saluka Fafita into the front rower position to get a 1-year extension. I think they'll only extend 1 year, and I'm not sure if he'll take it or not. Because I think Saluka Fafita could command between 400 and 500 grand and a 2-year deal anywhere at many clubs, including his old club, South Sydney. Blake Taff. Now, will Blake Taff? I look at our fullback stocks for next year, and all I see is Connor Tracy. So to me, that makes Blake Taff an investable commodity. I like to talk about it like that. Yes, we've got the likes of Jacob Kiraz, who they might go, you know what, Jacob, we're going to, who's there until 2027, you're going to be our fullback, our backup fullback for Connor. They've got Stephen Crichton there. And I think that's where we will see the evolution of Crichton. Connor Tracy will be getting to, I think he'll be 29. Let's have a look at his age. So he's 28 years old. So next year, in his final year, he'll be 29. No, he'll be turning 30 next year. Do they give Connor Tracy another season in the NRL, or do they transition Stephen Crichton into the fullback role? I think we will see Stephen Crichton transition, and we'll see Jacob Kiraz move into the centres, and a player like Jonathan Sewer and Rennie Karma as the early sort of players that they look to transition into those wing positions. That's what I think will happen. I think they see Bronson Cherry. You think Bronson Cherry and Kiraz will be on similar money, so they could, and sharing a similar amount. You move that big money player in Crichton into a fullback role, which I'm getting way ahead of myself, but this is what this is about. It's all to think about how they might be looking at things. Now, do they keep Blake Taff around for another year, or do they say, all right, we keep either Blake Taff or Blake Wilson? We keep one of the Blakes, and both of them have that sort of, Wilson can play some fullback, Taff plays fullback, Taff can play in the halves, Wilson can play on the wing. Taff can play on the wing as well, but he's more of a spine player. They've obviously got Tuala for next year, which adds that sort of depth around the wing and centre position as well. Do they bring in Jack Underhill? Is he playing NRL next year? Because I think he might debut this year. If we get some players picked in Origin, or if we have some terrible injuries which force some players out and force us into that sort of scenario. But Tom Amone leaving and Ryan Sutton does open the door for these young guys, and it opens the door for Daniel Saluka Fafita to have that position in the 30 next year. And I think he might get it. I really do. We've also got Samuel Hughes that we, I think once he gets back training and full fitness, will then assert himself and jump jump the queue and go back to where he was in the queue. Obviously, we've got Harry Hayes there for next year, Josh Curran. And you've got to start looking ahead. So these more experienced players, these older players, like Josh Curran's not old, but he's definitely how old is he? He's 25. So he's still only very young. He's beefed up to 104 kilos this year. You know, they're going to have to start looking at, do we keep extending those players or do they outplay their contract? I think there's a world where Josh keeps playing until at least 2027, but they then have to start pushing these players through. Harry Hayes looks like he's going to be a Bulldog for quite a while. And that's the other thing. When you're looking at the halfback stocks in your top 30, I think they're going to have to make way for a player like Cassius Tia to come into the club, into the top 30. I think they're going to have to bring in Joey O'Neill potentially. If they're doing that and they've already got Mitch Woods there and they've signed Bailey Hayward, are they saying, well, we're not going to go recruit another half, but Toby, maybe you're, I think we keep Toby next year. It's one of those things. You look at so many different scenarios, you can do your own head in. But yeah, in my gut feel is Blake Wilson will be leaving the club, which is sad. I think Jake Turpin will leave the club unless something happens with Reid Marnie. Now Reid's off contract come 2026, at the end of 2026, so he's a free agent from November. So in my opinion there, you've got lots of decisions to be made. I think Curtis Moran misses out. Yeah, so they're going to have to bring some players in. So you got 1, 2, sorry for counting out loud, but I'm going to do it anyway. Burton Crichton is 2, Curran 3, Hayes 4, Hayward 5, Lipoi Hopoi gets upgraded to the top 30 next year. He's 6, Hughes is 7, Hutchison drops out, Kikau 8, King 9, Karaz 10, Marnie 11, Mayu 12, Kurt Mann 13, Montoya 14. I feel Moran will drop out and not be there next year. Jacob Preston 15, Salmon 16. I think Toby will get another run. He'll be 17. Saluka Fafita, I think he'll get another run. He'll be 18. Blake Taff, I think he'll get another run. 19. Leo Thompson 20. Jack Todd 21. Tracy 22. Tuala 23. Tupanua 24. I think Turpin will be gone. I think Underhill will come into the squad, 25. I think Wilson will be gone. Mitchell Woods, 26. Bronson Cherry, 27. And I think the other players that they'll add to this squad are Jonathan Sewer, who I really like the way he moves on the left and right foot. Defensively is where it's got to happen for Jonathan. So I think he becomes player 28. And I think 29 is anyone's guess. Could be Joey O'Neill or Cassius Tia or both. If they're bringing both of those guys into the top 30 from the development list, it could be sayonara for Blake Taff or Toby Sexton. So that's my early thoughts on it. I think Tom Amone leaving the club opens the door for Saluka Fafita. But apparently, Jack Underhill, while he's got ticks on this, from what I read, he goes from training trial to development list next year, and he's on development list for maybe 1 or 2 years, and then 2028 he goes to the NRL. But I think he'll get upgraded to an NRL contract either next year or the year after. So I think he'll maybe development next year and NRL from 2027, and he'll be worth every cent. I have no doubt. And there'll be a whole bunch of young kids not on this, nowhere to be seen, that'll be popping their head into the picture and looking to pick up contracts. Just heard that Braith Sloan from the Harold Matt side has been given a 2 or 3 contract, which you would suggest ends in potentially an NRL contract at some point. Very good young player, defensively sound, and very good with the ball in his hands. Like many young players in that squad, which had a tough season, but they're going to be a much tougher team to deal with in 2026, that Harold Matt squad. So that's my discussion, guys. We've had a really strong start to the season and been very, very happy with it. Looking forward to the next 6 or 7 weeks, it's going to be pretty tough, right? So let's have a quick look at that. We've obviously got the Rabbitohs this week on the Friday. We then back up after that and go to Brisbane on the Thursday before the day before Anzac Day. Thursday night at Brisbane, I'll be there with my daughter. It'll be fantastic. The following week is Magic Round on the Sunday, so we get a nice long break. I'd say they'll come home from Brisbane and make 2 trips there. We then have a 6-day short turnaround into the Raiders in Canberra. 3 p.m, not a bad time to play them down there. Better to be playing in autumn than June in Canberra. Could be a nice conditions to play rugby league in. And they'll be probably, in my opinion, it'll be, as tough as the Broncos to beat. And I think the Titans will put up a pretty good show against us as well. I see this as a really dangerous period for the Bulldogs where we can't get ahead of ourselves. I think we need to put the cleaners through the Rabbits. I'll be very happy if we keep them to a very low score, under 1 or 2 tries, and then do what we've got to do. Broncos expecting fireworks in this match. I think the Broncos are going to turn up in this game. They've got every reason to. They were embarrassed by us last year on a Thursday night. I'm hoping to see the Bulldogs win a live match. I haven't seen too many since 2019, I can tell you that much. Then we've got the Titans at Magic Round. I'll be there as well for Sunday the 4th of May, which we're really looking forward to that, to break our Magic Round hoodoo. Then the Raiders in Canberra, followed by a Friday night match, 6-day turnaround into the Roosters, who, they got some fucking good young players coming through it as well for Ketty. And, Savala, the halfback, he did a phenomenal job in his debut. I couldn't believe where he's landing those balls, the kicks. They were just finding the grass time and time again. Then we play the Dolphins at a core on a Thursday night, another 6-day turnaround into that. So this is a tough run before our round 13 bye. This next quadrant of games, if we can get away winning the majority of these, only dropping 2 of these games, I'll be happy as far as the entire season goes. I'm not going to predict who we win or who we lose against, but it starts this week against the Rabbits. There's scores to settle with every team here, and there's teams that'll want to, we've beat the Broncos last time we played them. We've beaten the Titans the last couple of times we've played them. We beat the Raiders last time we played them. We beat the Roosters. Well, the Roosters beat us the last time, but we ambushed them the time before that. And the Dolphins are still yet to beat the Bulldogs. And that leads us into the second half of the season, which is a very, every game's tough. Every game's tough, and we've disposed of the Dragons, the Titans, the Eels, the Sharks, and the Knights. But if you really look at it, Dragons, they've had 2 wins. Titans have had 2 wins. Eels have had 1 win. Sharks have had, I think, 3 wins now. Knights have had 2 wins. All right? That is what you got to look at. 2 wins for the Knights, 2 wins for the Titans, 2 wins for the Dragons, 3 weeks for the Sharks. Okay? 1 win for the Eels. So the sides that we've beaten, not one of them are in the 8. We now have to play Rabbits, currently 5th, 4 wins. Broncos, 3rd, 4 wins. We then go back to the Titans again, who are outside the 8, and losing a couple of players has been hard on them. But they're always dangerous, before going back to the Raiders, who are sitting 4th on 4 wins. Roosters only 2 wins. So there you go. And Dolphins obviously only the 2 wins as well. So haven't played any of the teams that have been essentially performing, but it's still early days. The heavyweights of the comp are the Storm, the Broncos, and the Raiders, in my opinion, at the moment. I think Wests are going better than people realise. I think Warriors are a week-to-week proposition. I still don't rate the Rabbits, and hopefully they don't pull our pants down again. And we'll see who the ref's going to be tomorrow. That's going to be interesting. Will it be Sutton? Who knows? But yeah, we've got to do it against the Broncos, the Raiders, the Rabbits. They're in this next quadrant. They're all up there near the top of the competition for a reason. And we have to show them why they're not supposed to be there, which is what we've got to do. So thanks for listening, guys, to our review of the first 7 or 6 rounds, the first quarter of the competition approximately. Would have been probably better after the Souths game, but after we had the bye, I thought we'd just do this now. And we'll see how we go, guys. But thanks for listening, everyone. Good luck to all involved. Some big games coming up. Semi-finals, the SG Ballside won. They're through to the next round. They're playing sudden death all the way through, hopefully. Mitchell Woods is back. He returned. They won 38-30. Come home after being behind and scored 2 tries late to win. We've got Jersey Flag going okay, back on track. New South Wales Cup, who I expect will make a big run for things at some point. And even our Ron Massey, although they've only had the 1 win, looked a lot better again. They're just defensively no connection there, but they can score points from anywhere. Lots of talented, skillful players in that side. Good things are happening. Our girls' sides are winning their semi-final matches. It's a good start to the season for the Dogs, and our juniors are going quite well. Probably not as dominant as last year, but we are in the girls' teams. But anyway, we will see how it goes. Thanks for watching, everyone, and go the Dogs.